Welcome to Drake Enterprise Solutions Analysis of Market Performance. Today, our team intends to do three things. We wish to do this by showing you an analysis, our strategy, and the eventual outcome. We first want to look at manufacturing and show how the analysis led to operating in the Workhorse and Mercedes market. We want to then demonstrate how we developed these products and how this ultimately affected the sales outcome. We then want to look towards the marketing and show how consumer preferences led to our rebranding strategy, which then led to lower market recognition than anticipated. Finally, we're going to have a look at sales channels and HR teams and have a look at the output that was required, how we adjusted our strategy to meet this, and the ultimate performance outcome. We're then going to wrap up by showing the finance of our operations and show that we lost $12.6 million through our operations, and ultimately were ranked 6th in the market performance.
Initially, it was seen that there were three main markets within the PC industry. These three markets, Traveller, Workhorse, and Mercedes, all had different customer needs and values. Traveller valued portability, available service, and the ability to be able to connect to the office when on the road. Workhorse valued savings in training, a multi-purpose workstation, and a machine that can easily tie into the local area network. Mercedes valued high performance over price, ultra-fast processing power, and fast response time. By calculating the market value, it was established that Workhorse and Mercedes were the two markets our firm was going to target. Initially, two brands were designed to enter each market. These were designed and priced to be premium products offering a variety of benefits at a low cost to attract market share. The product and brand was reviewed and judged against every competitor in the global market. According to the data in Q2, the two design brands were very positively received, showing that customer needs were being met. To maintain this momentum and stay ahead of the market, multiple brand designs were released. This was intended to capitalize upon the success previously enjoyed. However, many other firms had caught up and were releasing similar products. In a final attempt to stay ahead of competing companies and capture a greater percentage of the total market share, research and development was invested into to increase the technical standard of each brand. Ultimately, Drake was unable to sustain a leading market position. This was brought about by two factors. Firstly, the increased competition removed early monopolistic control of particular markets. Secondly, under-expansion via minimal spending on manufacturing failed to establish a unique value proposition with Drake's products.
Marketing. The promotional strategies of the marketing mix for both brands was focused on print media and specific journals and magazines. Initially, we assessed the return on investment per dollar spent and placed our media spend in areas with a high ROI. After assessing the results, however, we found that spending the advertising budget where the advertising had greater reach in the preferred mediums was more effective. We initially invested $88,000, which was adjusted to $165,000 after the introduction of the additional brands. In the final quarters, the spend was significantly increased to $324,000. Overall, however, our media spend in advertising was conservative compared to our competitors. The key messaging in our advertising was originally content-heavy and poorly received. This was adjusted throughout the quarters to communicate our unique selling propositions only. As a result of the advertising, the brand was poorly regarded. Despite in-depth campaign analysis, our advertising was not as successful as hoped. We would recommend to the board in future to increase media placements and advertising spend across a wider range of publication supported by other channels of advertising, for example, television, radio. Also, conducting content testing would be recommended to determine which content best resonates with our market.
The sales channel and HR supported all of these operations. Brick-and-mortar stores and specific geographies would maximize sales if this was supported by an incentivized workforce. Our analysis showed that brick-and-mortar stores would exceed the sales of the online segment by a ratio of 2 to 1. Thus, it was important to invest in brick-and-mortar stores first. Specifically, it was necessary to invest in North America, France, and China, as these proved to be the most valuable markets for Mercedes and workhorse products. To support this, we needed an incentivized workforce. There were two options open to us: either match industry pay or exceed this payment to drive aggressive growth. We adopted a strategy of both at different times throughout our operations. Now, Drake Enterprises first grew in brick-and-mortar stores before developing its online strategy, and indeed it was right to do so, as it ultimately was the case that the sales office channel in the physical presence outstripped the online web channel by a ratio of 2 to 1. Therefore, when we developed firstly our brick-and-mortar in North America, then France, followed by an online presence, and then China, our operations were technically correct. To drive aggressive growth, we hired a large number of sales staff throughout our operations. However, this eventually tapered off when we were unable to sell the product required. However, the key failing of Drake Enterprise Solutions was its inefficient use of resources to drive growth. This is exemplified through the low number of sales that were achieved per sales staff compared to our competitors. As a result, our operations were only 40% efficient. Despite this, we were still paying out the highest employee benefits across the industry. These were undeserved and cost the company. Indeed, we then suffered stockouts in 4 different weeks, which meant we lost consumer confidence. As a compound result of all these factors, we ultimately lost $12.6 million on our operations. Now, turning to these finances, we can see that Drake Enterprise Solutions, despite seeing some strong early returns, was unable to capitalize upon this. Despite having an initial market share of 40%, it was unable to realize a long-term financial return to the owners of the company. Now, moving forward, there are several key drivers that the company needs to be made aware of to improve. Firstly, it needs to lower its excessive product margin. Throughout our procedure, ours was currently at 60%. Having a lower price will make the product more price competitive. This in turn will then increase the low sales experienced. Furthermore, Drake Enterprise Solutions needs to make greater investments in long-term future strategies, rather than the short term. Finally, it needs to correct its inefficient production facilities to ensure that the maximum return on investment can be realized. Ultimately, today's presentation has looked at the 3 different areas of the business by going through an analysis of what was required, the strategy that we developed, and the outcome as a result. Our manufacturing developed the workhorse and Mercedes product, and by developing these products, achieved a specific sales volume which was lower than required. Our marketing looked at the consumer preferences, branded appropriately, but was unable to achieve market recognition. Finally, our HR and sales platform looked at the output required, adjusted appropriately, but did not require the necessary performance to achieve profitability. And as such, the company lost $12.6 million and was ranked 6th in our operations on the global scale.